Yes, God is good all the time. Yes, if you're walking through the valley, there are shadows all around. Do not fear, He will guide you. He will keep you safe and sound. He has promised to never leave you.
Well, you might have heard the story about this guy at a telegraph office. You know, we have our smartphones now. Before that, we had regular telephones and so forth. But once upon a time, if you wanted to send a message to someone, you sent them in a telegram. You remember, the telegraphs? We used to all do that. Sure you do. And so there was a story about this guy. He was a telegraph operator, a telegrapher, and he was in an office in New York City, and he heard the doorbell ring. The door opened. There was a door a bell hanging over the door, and there was a door over the bell too. But let's talk about the bell over the door, and it kind of jingled. And the telegrapher looks up, and this dog walks in. And the dog walks up to the guy and hands him a piece of paper. And the dog looks at the telegrapher and clears his throat and he says to him, "Sir, I would like to send this telegram to my friend over in London, if I may." And the telegrapher says, "Okay." He opens up the paper because he's going to have to, type it in, and he looks at it, and the paper says, "Woof, woof, 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 woof." As he finishes reading, the dog takes out a small change purse, because they carry those, and opens up, and he puts out 10 pennies on the table to pay for it. And the telegrapher looks at the note, and he looks at the dog, and he says to him, "Hey dog, can't you read?" He says, "See the sign over here? You get 10 words for a dime." And the dog says, I'm sorry, did I not give you the right change?" The guy says, No. You gave me the right change, but you got another wolf coming. You only gave me 9 wolves. So for your 10 cents, you get to put another wolf on here if you want to. So see if you want to add a wolf. So the dog takes the money back. He's happy. And he looks at it, and he talks to himself and puts his glasses on. He reads it, and he says, gives it back. He says, "Oh, no, I can't add another wolf. If I did, the message wouldn't make sense at all." That's hilarious. I love that joke. Good morning, Ferges Free Methodist Church, and a woof woof to you, and glad you could be with us today, and hope wherever you are, you just have a wonderful day, and we're happy you could be here. Well, if you were here last week, you might remember that we took a look and talked a little bit about barber shops and barber poles, and we learned some interesting things about barber poles. And now, I just wondered, we have a sermon, we talk about stuff, and I wonder if anybody makes connections during the week. So we talked about barber poles. Did anybody see a barber pole this week? They go, "Aha, we were talking about that Sunday." Anybody see one? You did? You did? That's great. Yeah, that's neat. So you make it, there's a barber pole. And you remember that one of the things about the barber poles was that originally the barbers were also doctors. I mean, they weren't great doctors, but you could get your hair cut, and if you had something that ailed you, the biggest thing they would do was a bloodletting. They let a little blood out for whatever ailed you. Too much blood is bad for the body, they believe. And so it was an attempt to be healed by basically sacrificing blood. But the thing we learn from that, the second thing, is that we don't need that. We are all healed from the condition of sin and the consequences of sin by the blood of Jesus Christ. We're healed spiritually, we're redeemed, we're saved, and we're reconnected to God through the sacrifice of Jesus and saved from the consequences of sin and the power of sin in our lives. And we don't need any more blood sacrifices. We don't need to bring any bulls or goats or anything up to the church. It's all happened, and it happened once. We don't need the temple anymore. And the third thing we learn, though, is that barbershops are becoming a happening place. That there's some ministry and some programs out where people actually go to a barbershop, and it's become a place to witness to Jesus. It's kind of a ready-made congregation. It's a place for people to talk about what ails them, what troubles them, to have a little community. And barbers are actually getting trained in how to help people navigate your way through life. So when you see a barber pole, it doesn't just mean haircut or bloodletting. It could also mean there's a community meeting there, and maybe an opportunity for Jesus to be in that community. Well, our scripture is a familiar story, maybe, about a woman at the temple who donated her last coins to the offering, and it's in Mark 12:38 through 44. And I'm just going to read that, and then we'll walk our way through it. So Jesus is there, he's in the temple, he's talking. This is kind of the end of his ministry in Mark, and he's doing a lot of teaching, and he's making a lot of points. And in verse 38 says, as he taught, Jesus said, watch out for the teachers of the law. They like to walk around in flowing robes and be greeted with respect in the marketplace, and have the most important seats in the synagogue and the places of honor at banquets. They devour widows' houses and for a show make lengthy prayers. These men will be punished most severely. And Jesus then sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put in and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins worth only a few cents. And calling his disciples to him, he says, Jesus said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she gave out of her poverty, put in everything, all that she had to live on. Now, if you've still go to the grocery store, I mean, sometimes we go and we just back up in the store and people come out and put our food in or stuff in the car. That's very convenient. But if you ever actually do go inside because you want to choose your own fresh fruits or whatever, you go inside, you might experience this. You go grocery shopping and it's once a week or once a month or whatever it is, and you go through and you get some cereal and milk and Pop-Tarts and Cheetos and whatever it is, soft drinks, protein bars, coffee, green vegetables, a chicken or 2, a hamburger, and you got about 5 or 6 bags of groceries, and you go up there to the checkout and they ring them up, and then the cashier person looks at you once they ring it up and says, all right, that'll be $873.47. Yeah, almost. And then a lot of times the person will then ask you, would you like to round up your total to support the community center's after school program? Have you noticed that? Have you noticed a lot of businesses and grocery stores will ask you, do you want to round that up for a worthy cause? And I don't know about you, but when I hear that, I'm like, okay, when you say round up, do you mean round up from 47 cents to 50 cents? Or are you talking about rounding up to $874? Or do you want to round up just to an even 1,000 and just wipe me out for the rest of the month? What are you talking about rounding up here? And so she said, no. It's just 53 cents to make it an even dollar. It's for a worthy cause. And part of you is like, yeah, it's a worthy cause. I'll never miss the 53 cents. You'll do it. And if you don't, I'm going to feel guilty if I say, no, everybody's watching me. You're going to be a cheapskate, or you're going to put in 53 cents. You're not going to miss it. And so you say, yes, I'll do it. Or you might be one of those folks that you say, hey, nobody is going to guilt me into doing anything right. Nobody's going to guilt me into doing anything charitable. I don't know anything about this charity. I don't know what school it is. I don't know whose home it's after. How do I know they're going to get the money and spend it the way they're supposed to be? And why isn't my favorite charity being offered instead of this charity? So after a while you say, bah humbug, and you simply move on with a no, don't round me up. Now, I don't know how y'all respond to that, but that is something that's happening. Now, a lot of organizations are using that as a way to raise funds for themselves. Goodwill Industries is doing that. I don't know if they're doing it in here or not. I'll have to confess I haven't bought groceries in person that I remember in a while. But Goodwill's is doing that. In Fort Worth, Texas, I read this week that they had 25 retail locations. In the year 2020, in 1 year, they raised $295,000 simply by the roundup. That's almost $350,000 simply by asking folks, would you like to round your purchase up a couple of pennies to an even dollar? I mean, it's become an amazing way to generate a lot of money. It's like our shoe boxes. We have a little bit, we put them together, they do a lot. It's like our food drive. We put a few cans together, next thing you know, we have a whole food pantry full of stuff. So Goodwills and other businesses are doing this. But it starts with just the pennies. It's just the pennies. So I want us to talk a little bit this morning about pennies, but more than just the copper coin, also kind of a spiritual inventory, using the penny as a philosophy about how do we live our life. And we should all take a look at how do we spend our resources, our financial resources, our time, our talents, our gifts, our service, all those things, even the smallest of them. And one of the things to remember is the penny belongs to God. I mean, everything we have really belongs to God. We're not taking any of us with it. We get to use it. We get to borrow it for a few years or 100 years or whatever. But the penny belongs to God. Everything belongs to God. And it's something that we need to remember. Now, the penny itself is powerless. It's a piece of copper and zinc. It weighs 2.5 grams. It costs a little over 2 cents to make a cent, actually. The value of the copper and the work that goes into it is worth more than the penny itself. You can find pennies everywhere. You ever just come across and find a penny, and you're laying and you say, there's a penny. And I used to stoop and pick it up. Now that I'm older, like, it's a penny. If it was a silver dollar, it might be worth me bending over, but for a penny, I don't know if I could get back up for a penny. Maybe $1, maybe $half I'll get down there. But a penny, I don't know. But you find them everywhere. They're in parking lots, they're in the sidewalk, they're in the streets, they're in piggy banks, they're in jars, in your pockets, kitchen drawers, parking lots, in any place where humans or a dog with a change purse might accidentally drop a penny. Anybody have a penny in your pocket right now? In your purse? You got a penny in your purse? Yeah, I don't have one in me right now. So, but here's the thing about the penny. If you see a penny on the ground, it's basically worthless until you pick it up. It's not worth anything until you take it and make it work. Put energy in it. Put behind it. These shoe boxes don't do anybody any good sitting here by themselves. They only do good when they're flown someplace and given to somebody. A lot of the resources that we have, our talents, our gifts, our abilities, our thoughts, our prayers, our words, and our money too, really don't do any good until we put them in motion and we do something with them. So that penny doesn't do anything good if it's just left sitting there. We have to put it into work. Jesus says in John 15, verse 5, he says, I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in you and I in you, you will bear much fruit. And this is the kicker, he says, but apart from me, you can do nothing. So that penny laying on the sidewalk or that dollar on the dresser, apart from the person using it, is not going to do anything. And so that resource needs to be connected with an agent, I'm going to put it this way, with an agent of God, which is us, to be used for God's glory. Sitting by itself, wherever it is, it's not really doing anything. It can only do something when it's connected. Apart from Jesus, we can do nothing. And so whatever we have is really doing nothing until we give it to God. If we pick it up, though, it still really isn't ours. Everything is God's. Not just the big things, but the little things too. Not just the dollars, but the pennies as well. We just get used to the penny, but we realize that everything is for God's glory. And the truth is, we often spend our pennies and our dollars seeking our own pleasures than seeking the glory of God. And it's not so much that you buy the glory of God, but it's just that everything we have, we are stewards of. We don't really own anything. We're just caretakers of it, and we're caretakers of it for God. A penny has no power unless you put it to work. So if you have some pennies, or nickels or dimes or whatever, put them to work. Let your money go to work. You set the agenda. You've been entrusted with managing those resources, whether they're your time, your talents, your gifts, or your pennies, whatever it is. God trusts you to be a steward of that. And remember, stewardship is managing somebody else's resources. And everything we have belongs to God. So we don't really own stuff, but we are stewards. We are managers of God's resources, whatever they may be. And when we manage them well, we do enjoy that. We do derive pleasure out of doing that. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, it's all God. So we need to have a vision and a plan and a discipline to manage God's resources properly. Now, the penny also is something that we shouldn't lust after. We shouldn't just be, I want to go get a lot of pennies, and we don't lust after pennies. And many of you are thinking, no, I don't lust after pennies. It's the dollar that I like. If I'm going to lust after something of a monetary value, I want it to be big. I want it to have lots of big presidents on it. You know, I don't know what's the biggest president. I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen anything above a Lincoln. I don't know what's above there. But we want the big stuff, right? We do. And we like a lot of dollars, but we got to remember that God tells us that He will provide for all of our needs. Therefore, we don't have to lust after money or chase after it. Chasing after that next penny or that next dollar can be more trouble than it's worth. The time and effort and energy we chasing after that incremental piece of money can deprive us of really good time with people we love. It can deprive us of really good opportunity to serve God. It can deprive us of a lot of things. We trade a lot of stuff looking for that next incremental penny. So the other thing is, we don't try to please the penny, don't worship the penny. We worship God. Remember Jesus, words of Jesus. He says, take care, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, for one's life does not consist in the abundance of possession, he says in Luke 12:15. The writer of Hebrews adds this, keep your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have, for he said, I will never